Alright guys, back with another MMO impressions video. It's been a long time, but I'm covering an MMO that still managed to remain pretty unique to other MMOs, despite being out for almost 2 whopping decades, and I'd say it's managed to remain pretty relevant in the MMO space despite this. Colored Goose impressed. The game is Dark Age of Camelot Phoenix, and the purpose of this video is mostly to tell you guys what to expect in the first couple dozen plus hours of the game, because while I haven't made it to endgame yet, I can still give you enough information so you guys know what experience you'll have to go through, which takes a considerable amount of time before reaching endgame. So I've broken this video up into a few parts, including a couple of new parts never before seen in my other videos. The first part I call the information, which gives you a quick summary of what type of MMO this is, how much I played it before making this video, its payment model, and so on. And following that, we have the recap, which is some of the experiences I've had in the game so far, some of my journeys to being the ultimate in-game badass, I guess you could say. I'm like a bard, to put this in MMO terms, but I don't sing tales of other heroic people, I just sing about myself, because I'm my own hero. My confidence is unbreakable.
Oh my gosh, who invited that fucking noob?
Why are you so mean to me, you bullying ass bitch?
Oh my gosh, here we go again.
So those are the 2 new sections. Then I'm gonna have the typical pros and cons followed by the final verdict. All the timestamps are gonna happen right now. Kapow! Alright, let's do this. What is it? Dark Age of Camelot Phoenix is a free-to-play server that was created to harken back to Daoc as it was in patch 1.65, which I'm guessing is the most universally accepted stage the game was at, the golden era if you will, and on top of basing Phoenix around patch 1.65, they've also added plenty of their own updates to improve the game even more. I read on Reddit that they also wanted to make the game a little more accessible to newer players, so while this plays more like classic Daoc, it doesn't have as intense of a grind as classic. Now speaking specifically about the gameplay, team play is a huge focus in Daoc, and as you'll tell from gameplay from my experience, I regularly am in groups while playing. They're way more fun and seem a little more efficient than solo play. Camelot puts the MMO in MMORPG. My tongue just went freaking bonkers. I apologize. Tongue, settle down! Also, realm versus realm. You know what that means. There's some fat PvP battles that you can get in on once you hit a high enough level. Hey man, what's your name? Timmy! Hey Timmy, wanna grind XP together? Sure! Alright, let's go! Timmy! So while I'd say this game is more PvP centric, I've confirmed with plenty of players that the endgame isn't just PvP. There is a server specific item called feathers, and if you collect enough feathers through doing any of the tough endgame PvE dungeons, or raids, or realm versus realm, there's plenty of things you can cash them in for, whether it be rare boss items or special crafting items. And the raids look so epic from the videos I've seen. I mean, check this puppy out. There's more people in this one shot than I have subscribers. Hit that subscribe button, you won't regret it. But overall, it is worth emphasizing that the main draw of the game, which is realm versus realm. And this comment sums it up the best. The pricing model of Dark Age of Camelot Phoenix is as follows. Nothing, seriously, you won't spend $1 on this game. It's a completely free shard, and you guys know me. When Goose hears free, he drops his pants and bends right over. Next up, the population. So the Phoenix server has been live for over 2 months now. It's still pretty new, and from when I started playing, the server count ranged anywhere between 650 players to 1,500 players online while I played. Now for what is essentially a new server delivering a classic experience for an already old game, those numbers are pretty good. And the best part is, while in-game, all the global chat channels are very active, and I am constantly seeing players running about. I've also regularly gotten into groups almost every time I've looked for one while leveling. Next on the list, help for beginners. I'd strongly recommend this Reddit guide I found, which has plenty of details on how to get started on progression in-game, the best ways to level, where to find creature types, and so on. But first I'd recommend just jumping into game and get shocked at how there's no quest givers anywhere. I immediately opened up advice chat and was like, y'all, I think my game glitching. Nope, it wasn't. There really just isn't much in the way of quests, so go and just start killing creatures. Anyways, the Reddit guide I found is linked in the description. My time played and goals accomplished. So I have played for 28 hours and reached level 32 on my mercenary class character, who is of the Highlander race. Mercenary is one of the melee classes available, and apparently Highlanders are great at bashing people in the face with said melee weapons, so it was kind of a perfect match. Alright, getting closer to those pros and cons, we are now at the recap portion of the video. Dark Age of Camelot Phoenix definitely comes across as just another generic looking MMO, but it's actually far from that, and you'll realize this quickly as there's a big learning curve. Now I'm a guy who's gotten to that age where there's a lot going on in life, and I like to buckle down at night for a calm, relaxing game session in a game that I suppose you'd say offers a simple or a casual experience, stress-free. The complete opposite of EVE Online, know what I mean? And I looked at screenshots of Dark Age of Camelot as I looked for a new MMO, and I read up thoroughly on the game. Welcome to Dark Age of Camelot. You are about to enter a living world full of adventure and shared experience. Yeah, good enough for me. Sounds like an easy one to get into. And I made my decision. A nice, casual MMO experience. Yeah, I'm a dumbass. Dark Age of Camelot, a game that is apparently packed to the brim with depthy, complex mechanics, so, you know, exactly the opposite of what I was looking for, flipped me over and gave my lazy tushy the spanking of a lifetime. And oh man, did I love it. My ass rippled as Dark Age of Camelot brought its hand of knowledge down on it repeatedly, and I told him to do it again. Which is ironic, because I thought I was over spending hours researching an MMO in my free time, but I've found myself doing that all over again, because DAOC has been quite a fresh experience, and I've felt so far that it's worth my time investment. From the moment I created my username that immediately got banned, to the moment that I hit level 30 and experienced my first dungeon, I have definitely found my time in Dark Age of Camelot to be interesting, because this MMO is definitely unique to others I've played, for better or worse. Unfortunately for me, I start slow in MMOs. It takes me a while to figure things out. Like, I am literally telling you to avoid me if you see my username in chat going, LFG, I'm telling you, it's a trap, save yourself. I wish I could save myself from my own self. See, I don't, what does that even mean? Shut up, Goose! But over time, when I am finally able to get a grip on an MMO, I immediately do a 180 and turn into a huge snob. Like, you need me to tell you how to up your DPS? I do not have the time to— Do you think you're the first person to ask me that today? Nay. Do you think you're the first person to ask me that this hour? As of right now, I haven't hit that 180 because while spending about 28 hours in game, I can tell I've probably learned only about 3% of the entire game. This fact became jarringly apparent when a group of players found out that I was a new player, first they'd seen in a long time. I imagine to all current players of Dark Age of Camelot, spotting a new player in this game is like spotting the Yeti in real life, like almost the same level of amazement and rarity. Everyone in the group became infinitely nicer to me and more helpful when they found out I just started playing a few days ago. Now every time I get in a new group, I'm like, hey guys, just started playing. Not everybody was as nice as that first group. The best comment I saw was, "Aw, fuck, don't pull everything like the last asshole." To which the apparent asshole responded, "I'm still in the group." He was still in the group and the other guy didn't even know, and it was just you had to be there. Now, Dark Age of Camelot is a heavily PvP-focused game, but I haven't PvP'd just yet, technically. Literally the one time me and my whole team got ganked, I alt-tabbed out of the game, and in like 15 seconds it happened. Ironically, because I was on YouTube, and YouTube was going through my liked playlist, and one of my own videos came on. Yes, I like my own videos, and no, I don't like my own Instagram posts. Maybe I do. Anyway, so I wanted to skip my video. I was like, shut the fuck up, Goose! So I go out and skip it, and the next video comes on. It's a song, catchy little beat if I do say so myself. It pumps me back up to go in game and really help my team to dominate the battlefield and gain that XP. Tab back in. Dead as shit. I was so choked. I missed my first ganking because I was skipping my own video. How dare I rob myself of my own first PvP experience. Desperate to relive that experience that I was so horribly robbed of, I ventured alone into the Realm vs. Realm. Level 50s exclusively everywhere. And I tried to sneak my way into one of the many experienced PvP groups that were about to go off to war. At first, it went flawlessly. I'm pretty sure they just thought I was one of the boys, but I grew impatient as they proceeded to spend what felt like 6 hours buffing each other. I made a comment. They remembered that. Finally, the group mobilized. It was time to face my destiny. But it turns out those buffs were actually pretty worthwhile because they freaking took off like a rocket, and I lost them about 3 seconds later. And so I continued alone, scared, but determined. Oh, a friendly player.
He wasn't.
Enough about my adventure so far, we have some pros and cons to talk about, and I'll cover how Dark Age of Camelot holds up in 2019 compared to the other MMO experiences available out there. Let's start with the pros. First, the very active player base. There's not a ton of players, and to be honest, the Phoenix population has been slowly going down since the server released, but the ones that are playing seem to be loyal and active as hell. And the beautiful thing about a game like Dark Age of Camelot is you know all these players are trapped. These guys are lifers. They're still playing a game that has been out for almost 20 years, even though there's tons of amazing games that have been released since, and a lot of the players I talked to have been playing for like 10 plus years. That's the great thing about communities that form in an MMO that's unique in the genre for so long. Since there's no other MMO like it, people that dig the game stay really loyal to it. Like look at EVE, another great example. So many of the players in EVE have been around for 5 years, 10 years. Yeah, these players are screwed. They're in here for the long haul, and I honestly might be one of them. Shit. While I know the population has been dropping slowly, this doesn't worry me because this always happens when a new game launches. There's an initial spike of players and then it dwindles down slowly to the core player base. Next pro, you're constantly being fed gear and items. Now again, comparing this to other MMOs, I've played plenty where you'll equip gear and it'll make either a tiny change to your character's look or none at all. All the gear in DAOC has a chance of looking completely unique from the last, and this game feeds you gear like you're a hungry hippo. Seriously, it's like every 4th or 5th kill I'm getting a new gear piece, and constantly swapping equipped gear around because this game keeps dropping new ones into your lap, so it's nice to always know it's not just your XP bar going up from mob hunting. You can also look forward to getting better loot 100% of the time. Now speaking of hunting, the insane variety of creatures you'll kill while leveling is a mixed bag, a pro and a con. It's awesome that there are so many different types of enemy NPCs to fight. They all look unique to one another, and it's not just looks, because they fight differently from one another too. Some MMOs could learn from this. Blood rights. So while leveling, it's nice to feel like you're constantly getting fed a new experience via all these creatures you have to choose from. But the con comes from how they just kind of feel plopped down onto the map. Like plenty of areas will just have a massive lizard walking alongside an evil spirit, or a human walking right beside massive evil crabs and snakes. So I was telling this guy, what's your deal, man? Trying to step up on my girl like that? No respect. Like, no respect. Yeah, like oh, hey, where do you think you're going, asshole? It's kinda like a constant reminder that these creatures are just here for us to harvest for XP, but at least there's plenty of new types to butcher the shit out of along the way. Next pro, clearly a game meant for group play. Solo play is boring. Of course, this is just my opinion, but yeah, this game is definitely pro teamwork. Like, don't do what I did, mindlessly killing enemy mobs for like 7 hours only to get to level 9. Because the beautiful thing about this almost 20-year-old MMO is you don't even ever feel like you need to do this. The population is not only active, but it's also very community-oriented. It's incredible. I've seen and played with more players in my first 15 hours of this game than I have most other MMOs where I've spent close to 100 hours on them. And there's 2 things an MMO needs to get this awesome result of high community engagement, and the first one is a population. The second is the game needs to put the players in situations where interacting with others pays off big. And that's what's awesome about Dark Age of Camelot. It actually feels like a massively multiplayer online experience. That genre label isn't just stamped onto this game loosely. This is how MMOs should feel. We should feel the need to play with others and work towards a common goal, which is surprisingly uncommon in so many other MMOs I've played. I love how DAOC immediately gets you used to grouping and looking for and working with other players right off the bat, because I can't tell you how many MMOs I've played where I make it to endgame by practically playing completely on my own, but all of a sudden I need to do group content to get further, and I just feel like so out of my element and so confused all of a sudden. Like it's like getting thrown into the deep end, which happened to me when I was 6 years old, by the way. Punk-ass kid named Billy pushed me in. Now just a heads up, once you start looking for groups for that substantial XP boost, groups are absolutely the way to go, but a weird thing I've noticed is, while everyone seems to know this because the looking for group chat is very active, with people posting they're looking for an XP group, you might just have to take the initiative because a lot of people weirdly aren't willing to. It's like so bad that I'll have posted that I'm looking for an XP group, and 3 other people around my level will have done the same thing, all practically one after the other, but it doesn't go anywhere. Like, nobody wants to start the group. All of our lazy asses are like, Nah, it's okay. I don't want to have to type out the /invite and then type your weirdly spelled name after that and do that for every player that's looking to do the exact same thing that I want to do, and that's just not okay. Like, I am drawing the line. It's kind of an odd thing, but I've noticed this isn't the case with max level players. There's always groups forming for max level content, so I think it's just a situation you'll experience on your way there. As far as PvE goes, which is really the only thing I can do right now, it's been fun. Most of the time. Leveling up is fairly straightforward. You kind of choose a path you want to take. Like, for instance, I focus primarily on leveling my slash, so that means I'll be using blade type weapons instead of like a hammer, because that would be the crush path. And I also have focused on dual wielding because I always go with dual wield in any game I can. On top of that, far less commonly you are able to choose a realm ability you want to level up, some of which are available across all class types and some are specific to your class. But all of these abilities, well, passive or activated, are very powerful, hence why you don't unlock them as frequently. But when you do get realm points, you get to choose which ability you want to take, as there are plenty available. The PvE definitely looks more floaty and slower paced than modern MMOs, but this isn't a big turnoff for me. I dig this old school pacing, and what I love to do is try and combo up my skills, because to use certain skills you might have to use another skill right before it, so doing these skills in order can lead to some big damage on NPCs. I also tried out some group dungeon content. I ran one called Darkness Falls a couple of times, and it's a harder than typical XP grind because your group has to manage aggro a lot better since it's close quarters, and enemies spawn back fast. So you have to be efficient with focus firing enemies and working as a team, otherwise you may clear several mobs just for another to already have spawned back and blocked off the path again. That was probably the most fun I've had PvEing so far, because teamwork felt more relevant than ever. But like I said, expect a very slow pace to combat at the start, but then look at what is in store. Once you get to higher levels, as you can see, combat looks like a high focus endeavor and far more intense, especially because of the demand of PvPing, and how that is the focus of this game, so that means the people that do get to max level are going to be focusing on getting better at PvP, so you're constantly going to have a lot of challenging players and challenging groups to compete with, and I can't freaking wait. Now, I haven't experienced them myself yet, but I've been watching a lot of streams for Daoc Phoenix, and the raids look freaking epic! The closest I've seen to this many players doing one raid was in Lord of the Rings Online, the Heligrod raid, which was... back then it just blew my mind. It was 24 players at one time. But seeing what looks like double that, or even more in this video, like, look at all these players. Does that not need to be experienced one time in your life? Shit, I'm hyped up. I'm gonna go level up some more. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Let's kick off the cons. The first one is the game is pretty unfriendly to new players. Almost no guidance is available in the game, so for instance, it's not clear where to get started once you've been dropped in the world, what to do, how to do it, and so on. For instance, when you get in, there'll be a pop-up saying click any of these titles to see more about this aspect of the game. So I tried that, and then immediately went to advice chat because I didn't get it, and apparently this tutorial pop-up doesn't even apply to how things work in the Phoenix servers. But the lack of clarity in this game starts even before that, because even character creation plays a huge part in the success of your journey in Dark Age of Camelot. I'd say more than any other MMO. For instance, it sounds like some classes are just not that effective in endgame realm versus realm. Some aren't effective for leveling up to get to endgame unless you're playing in a group, and some are effective as a PvE-focused player. To sum it up, plenty of classes are useful at certain stages in the game, or for certain things in the game more than others, but not necessarily everything. Each class has races that are best suited to it. So for instance, the Avalonian race doesn't seem to be a good race to choose if you want to be any of the fighter subclasses, like Armsman, Paladin, or Mercenary. Now, while I appreciate this level of complexity to a game, much like how Elder Scrolls games have pretty much everything in character creation actually affect the outcome of your character, the character creation in Dark Age of Camelot seems to have more extreme results from your choices. So the point is, some clarification at the start would have been amazing so we don't find out 50 or 100 hours later that mistakes were made, or we don't spend the first 2 hours running around aimlessly trying to figure out where the quests are at. P.S. There aren't really any quests in this game, so just start killing stuff. On that note, the level grind is fast at the start, but does slow down a lot, which is common in MMOs, but while comparatively to other MMOs, it doesn't take a long time to get to a new level, what makes it feel like it takes even longer than it does is you are literally just killing monsters endlessly. That's pretty much it. The lack of quests in Daoc Phoenix means a mechanic that is used in other MMOs to incorporate and almost force exciting new gameplay into the mix or just new gameplay, is completely missing in DAOC Phoenix. As a result, the Phoenix server suffers from a largely uninteresting journey to max level because all that is left is mob grinding. MMOs in general make an effort to hide what is ultimately a big grind fest by incentivizing the player through different ways to get that XP, but DAOC doesn't even have that, and the result is, do you guys remember that South Park episode where the griefer kept murdering them, so they had to go train on like wolves in the forest until they killed millions of them, just so they could get to the griefer's level without being killed by him? Yeah, Phoenix reminds me of that, because all you'll be doing is killing, and Phoenix makes this unashamedly clear, with you just having to type /task to find out the list of things you can kill for task XP. And I believe you do have to wait until around level 20 to get into PvP, which you can do until level 24, but past that you won't really be able to PvP until higher levels, like I believe 40 plus, because the PvP zone after the level 20 to 24 zone has like no players. The combat as a whole is fun, but the way the leveling plays out, it still makes the game feel kind of boring at times, because it's just a lot of repetition. So what exactly does a day of getting them XP gains look like, you might wonder? Your character can complete kill tasks, as mentioned, which are essentially just kill X type of creature. For example, kill 10 humanoids or 10 animals, and once you complete that, you get level 2 of that kill task, which is now kill 25 of X creature, and the levels keep increasing until the next day where tasks reset. On top of that, there are certain creatures that offer players more XP based on realm bonuses. So for instance, my realm currently grants a huge XP boost for killing dragons, because they're hard to kill and not as regularly farmed as, say, humanoids, which grant no XP boost. And then there's XP items that drop from specific creatures in the world you can give to certain NPCs that will reward you with XP as a result. In summation, as you can see, all these XP methods boil down to just killing mobs for hours on end, and I found myself getting really bored at times, even well in groups. Next con. Since this isn't a questing-based MMO, that means there isn't as much of a narrative to your in-game experience, because as we know, each quest in an MMO that does questing right, that is either connected to the lore of the world or is a small separate story that still kind of lends some detail to the zone you're in. And through that questing leveling mechanic, they need to have that kind of dialogue there to give context to why we're doing any of these tasks. Dark Age of Camelot Phoenix has done away with quests, except for some very few impersonal ones, so it doesn't have that source of world building. And the result? Less dialogue, like none of it. Yes, yes. But it does leave this kind of hole in the experience that you'll start feeling regularly enough. And this MMO is heavily a PvP-based experience, with realm versus realm being the ultimate form of endgame. So while this means the players in a way create the story of the world because of the constantly changing or shifting territory control between each kingdom, don't be expecting the actual game itself to be giving you any of that. That being the world building. Now, I personally don't mind the grind. I just want to make it clear to new players that you're going to have to push through a lot of the same until max level, and you have to decide if that time investment is worth what waits on the other side. I definitely need to take breaks because it is a lot of the same, but I feel like I'm pretty geared towards grinding since I've been playing MMOs literally my whole life, and that's why I'm still playing. But I feel like nowadays this amount of grinding will be a huge turnoff for the average player. The endgame realm versus realm looks so fun, so I'm definitely working towards those greener pastures, but hopefully the price of entry, aka the leveling, doesn't deter too many people. My next con is the world hasn't really invoked any wonder or awe. In fact, it feels pretty barren and uninspired most of the time. Some zones have some nice structures around, but in general, out of the many zones I've been to, they either went from nothing to write home about to downright bland. I feel like a part of the reason for this, at least in PvP zones, is the same reason a game like Legends of Aria has so much open space and unused land in its game world, which is for the sake of players ultimately being the ones responsible for inhabiting and creating their own experiences in this world space, because both are really big on open world player versus player. But see, the point here is the whole world has kind of a plain feel to it. It's a lot of very open world and large zones without anything interesting to see. Now, the graphics obviously aren't great, but it's an almost 20-year-old game, so that doesn't really bother me much. The problem is the world won't at all be the factor why you will probably play this game, specifically because it just lacks cool things to see. It lacks personality, charms, and so on. That's a shame because so many MMOs, even ones with crappy graphics, They still have worlds that can pull you in because they're packed with that aforementioned detail and love. This issue, combined with the lack of story elements, has been the main reason I've been on the fence with Phoenix. I have enough moments during gameplay that I've enjoyed to keep me coming back, and I am so pumped to try out level 50 content. But a huge part of why I love this genre is I've been fortunate enough to experience some really amazing worlds and get sucked into the game's lore. Like Anarchy Online. To be real, kinda looks like a potato if we look at just how the graphics hold up, but it's still a world I got drawn into because of its unique look and character. And I haven't gotten that with Phoenix yet. But this is just my opinion. I'd love to hear from you current or longtime DAOC players and what draws you into the world. The purpose of this video was to give you guys my impressions of this relic of a game, and I mean relic in a good way. The fact that this MMO has held thousands of players almost 20 years later is a testament to the experience Dark Age of Camelot offers. Yes, the Phoenix server is new, but Dark Age of Camelot has held a decently sized audience for so long now, and it's worth trying to figure out why. A lot of the concerns I raised aren't even ones that would stop me from playing the game, because I've got my sights set on getting to Realm vs. Realm, but I know the state of the MMO genre has people looking far and wide for an MMO they can try out, whether it be old or new, and I wanted to give you guys who are considering DAOC a realistic picture of what is to come, so you can decide for yourselves if the grind is worth your time, or if you prefer a different type of experience. My personal opinion, the leveling experience is a disservice to the Phoenix server specifically, because while the combat is fun, it gets used in the most repetitive way while getting to 50. It's kind of like if you hear a new song and you're like, wow, this sounds dope, and you play it over and over for days, you're gonna get sick of it way faster. That's kind of what it's like in Phoenix, and there's just not enough varied gameplay to make me want to do it like the old days and pull a 6-hour MMO leveling session like I did in games like Anarchy Online, Terra, LOTRO, and so on. Am I still going to play it? Yes. There's a reason players have been committed to Dark Age of Camelot for so long, and I'm sure the end game is it. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope the video was helpful, and if it wasn't, please let me know what you'd like to see me work on. Also, Dark Age of Camelot vets, I'd love to hear your opinion on the Phoenix server. Please let me know if you're enjoying it, or if you prefer the EA ran servers even more. And if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe and like button for more MMO content. It definitely helps me because I am a smaller channel. Alright, take care.